Well, welcome to Integrated Health of Indiana's 7 o'clock talk. I'm Dr. Miller, and that's Nurse Jess. And we are headed to go pick up. Jessica is the marketplace queen. What are we going to pick up?
We are going to pick up a pergola.
So she found a $1,000 pergola for how much?
$100.
$100. So we are going to go pick up this pergola that was evidently bought on a pallet find, and we're going to go get it, and then
we're going to put it together.
We're gonna, not tonight, not tonight, but yeah, we're going to put it together this over the next few weeks. So tonight we really don't have any structure to this, because we want to answer some questions. And so Jess is going to tell me like one of the most common questions. And we get asked a lot of these questions. Hey, Kathy.
Hey, Miss Kathy.
We get asked a lot of these questions all the time. And we're going to put them in video form here and answer them to the best of our ability. Kathy, if you have any questions, comments, type it up, put it in there, and we'll be happy to answer questions. We're going to be driving for another 20 miles, and we just want to answer questions in that 20 miles. So any health questions, chiropractic questions, functional medicine questions, what do you have? Lay it on us and we'll answer it. I'll let Jess start with one of the most common questions, because we live in an area with manufacturing.
Why do I hurt?
Why do I hurt? And why does my wrist hurt?
Why does my feet hurt? Why does my back hurt? Why can't I sleep?
So, chiropractically speaking, when you get repetitive motion injuries like carpal tunnel, shoulder pain, elbow, stuff like that, we can adjust the bones. We can adjust the metacarpals, we can adjust the elbow, we can adjust the shoulder and the neck, all of which do have something to do or lead to those areas. Now, the reason why I became a functional medicine and acupuncturist is because there are times when just adjusting those areas doesn't resolve the issue. So there's still inflammation in there. And so we can have inflammation in the shoulder, or today I had a patient say her wrist hurts, but it'll sometimes be in her wrist, and then sometimes it's in her hip, and sometimes it's in her knee. And so if you have pain that moves around like that, that's not just biomechanical. You have some inflammation going on that is causing your joints to hurt. And so, as I explained to this patient, if you have pain that moves around and she couldn't sleep either, and you're taking stuff to make you sleep and taking anti-inflammatories, then all you're doing is masking this pain. So it's kind of like when you buy a used car and you see a good paint job, but there is rust bubbling underneath the paint. You know that somebody did not take the time to go in there, get rid of the rust, treat and prime the rust, and then put new paint on so that the rust was gone. And that's no different than in us, because if we don't take the time to get rid of the inflammation and then fix the gut and fix these other things and fix the adrenal glands, then we are just putting band-aids on things. And we see that all the time with medicine or pill for an ill stuff. So it's very important to realize that yes, there are times when you can hurt from an injury and it's biomechanical, and then there are times when this can have pain that started and it wasn't real bad, but now it's becoming more often and worse. If you have pain like that, then you can have biomechanical pain, but most likely you also have inflammation that is underlying and driving those processes. And that can cause you to have problems with your sleep. That can have you to have problems with your digestion. That can have you problems. God, that's horrible diction. Sorry, but that can cause you to have problems with the joints also. And you really got to take the time to vet that out, because how many times do we have people that talk to us about, I have a great diet and I sleep well, but my problems don't go away. Well, you've only done one R. You've removed the problem, but you haven't gone through the replace, repair, rebalance, reinoculate phases of functional medicine. So my niece is going through that now, and she has a fabulous diet, but there are still issues, and we got to go through the reinoculate, rebalance, re. And it just takes time. So what else do we get? Did I cover that well enough?
Why does my blood sugar matter?
Why is stevia not so good? Is that just all the time or when killing the bacterial phase? This, you want to put her thing on the screen, please? So, let's take this in parts. Facet number one is stevia can lead to us craving more sweets. It can hit the dopamine center of the brain, and then you want that dopamine hit, and so then it can cause us to start to go get worse foods, essentially. You know, it's kind of like they say marijuana is a gateway drug. They smoke marijuana, and then it leads to whatever is next, and then whatever's next. And I think your heroin and meth are at the top of the bad food chain. There are still, the studies are still out on whether or not stevia harms the microbiome or not. I still am waiting to see some more research on that. If you get pure stevia leaf, that typically tends to be a little better. But when they start to get those stevia blends, the stevia blends have more chemicals in them. So pure stevia leaf, I would give a tip of the hat to and say that that's okay. But when you get the stevia blends, I would say you're going to get into some dysbiotic stuff, allowing for the microbiome to become more pro-inflammatory, because that's what all of your acylfulvene K, that's what all of your aspartames and all of those do. On that note, stevia, when you eat that and you have that sweetness, the living organisms in your gut are expecting sweet. And if they don't get it, they can cause the enteric nervous system to trigger the brain saying, hey, I didn't get what I was expecting, and so now I want more. So, you know, if you can put a little stevia in whatever you're cooking with, eating with, baking with, and you have no problems with that, you're probably A-okay. But for me, once I break the sweet dam, that day is shot. You're going to ask Jess. She looks at me and says, how can you eat that much junk? And that's because I've triggered that sweet tooth, and by golly, it's on. So does that answer your question, Susan? And hopefully somebody else is queuing one up while we're waiting on that. Jess, what else do we get asked all the time?
why can't I eat wheat?
Oh, good God, yes. Let's do a little history lesson on this one. The wheat molecule that we used to eat used to have about 20% gluten. And now the molecule that we eat has about 60% gluten. And once again, this is a multifactorial issue, because if you're eating foods that are convenience foods that we have not eaten historically, and they're prepared in factories and they're prepared in bulk. Issue number one, outside of just gluten, is that those foods, to be mass produced, we're getting close.
Food of cheese.
When we see that, they generally have glyphosate residue on them. And Monsanto, as I was talking in some of my earlier TikToks this week and last week, Monsanto actually applied to have glyphosate considered as an antibiotic. And this is one of the most powerful antibiotics that we know of. Cheerios have glyphosate residue on the order of about 4 or 5 times what is known to be safe. So what we generally recognize as safe, grass, is 160 parts per billion. Cheerios have been found to have 700 plus parts per billion. So you're digesting that with, if it's Cheerios, it's going to be in all kinds of other cereals, because that raw material comes in as just a glop, and then they can form it into whatever paste they want to. So you have glyphosate residue on wheat, number one. You have the gluten content has been genetically modified to be 3 times what it used to be, number 2. Number 3, one piece of bread will raise your blood sugar more than a tablespoon of regular sugar. So the insulin response, and we all have problems with insulin resistance in America because all of this food is crap, and it's designed around 3 tastes. It's designed around sugar, fat, and salt. That's it. And they want to hit the dopamine centers of the brain. They want you addicted, and they want you hungry. And they want you eating more and more and more and more. And they do a real good job of doing it. I mean, they have that down to a science. There's a great YouTube video. And if you don't follow us on YouTube, we would appreciate a like, a follow. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of them. We would love to have likes and follows, please. It helps us. With that being said, there's a great YouTube video by Dr. Robert Lustig, and it talks about sugar, the bitter truth. And that goes into what fructose does to you. And then you can also search the term bliss point. And that term bliss point is something that has been coined by the food manufacturers. And it is that perfect mix of sugar, fat, and salt and mouthfeel that it hits the dopamine center of the brain. It is a very insidious thing. So look it up and just be prepared to be absolutely flabbergasted. I see we have another question in there. Susan had another question.
Organic fermented soy, is it okay, or is it still bad for your hormones?
Organic is healthy for women's hormones. So your miso, your natto, all of these things that are made from fermented soy are good. Make sure that they are the natural and natural fermented things, because they are absolutely good for female hormones and all of that. So don't worry about that. I know there's a lot of stuff out there about soy and soy being bad for women. That is only the genetically modified stuff, and generally that is associated with. Howdy.
Good evening.
Be right back.
Trevor Miller.
She's gonna.
I thought you were on the phone.
I am.
So I don't want to interrupt that.
You're fine.
So if you can pull around when you're done. If you just want to pull right there on, I'm charging my forklift because it started blinking red when I ran it out here.
Okay.
I don't know. You have to decide how you want to set it on there. I don't know if you want to set that on top of those, or I think we might be able to get both, but they may hang off just a little bit off the back. You'll just have to let me know how you want it.
We'll see how it goes. I'll just pull around here. So the organic soy is good. The GMO soy, not good. Glyphosate residue busts up the microbiome. Talking about just different things that are allowed into it, and we still don't know what happens with these GMOs long term. So that's where we're at with that. But that should answer your question. At this point in time, the people on the IFM, the doctors that teach us, the hormone specialists, they all like the true organic. What did I say? Organic. The true organic soy, traditionally fermented. That seems to be good, and it helps women balance the hormones. In Japan and in the Orient, where they don't have GMO soy, they're not allowed to actually use it. They don't have a word for hot flash. All right. You want to go deal with him, and I will answer any more questions. Sorry about that station break. But do we have any other questions? I got dual screen, so I'm cool in the truck. There's a camera down here, but it's not on in this one up here. Let's see. It seems right now that the microbiome is the hot topic. It seems to be the linchpin in a lot of the disorders that we see. And those disorders are everything that we see that's chronic: your diabetes, your hormonal issues, your autoimmune diseases. And right now it's really exciting because they're really working on how they can start to get people to get out of the autoimmune issues just by rehabilitating the microbiome. And the research on this is absolutely outstanding. The beginning, what do we want to call it? That echo is annoying. The beginning of the labs have been unbelievable. So we are seeing all kinds of super changes with people getting autoimmune diseases resolved just by healing up the gut, relieving the inflammation, getting rid of stress, and rehabilitating their microbiome. And it is giving us hope that there is a way out of this diabetes, metabolical conundrum we've put ourselves in. So if we have no other questions, we really appreciate the interaction. I like the interaction. I love answering questions. I'm going to get with them on this pagoda and help them get it loaded. You all have a wonderful evening, and we will see you next week. Don't forget, please, likes, follows, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and you can always ask us questions on there. We will answer your questions and your comments, hopefully in a timely manner. Have a great evening.